All right, it is Tuesday, September 22nd, the first day of fall, Dexter Manley, and it is time for the John Riggins Show.
All right, thank you, Todd. Dexter, good to see you again.
It's nice to be seen.
How you doing today?
Well, hey, I'm always saying better than good, better than most. I'm above ground.
That's the way it's supposed to be. You're 6 feet up instead of 6 feet down. I got like 10 pounds, and we only got a 5-pound bag, so I don't know where to begin. I've had a restless night, and let me fill you guys in on why that is. And of course, we'll get to the big game on Sunday. That in some ways was a game that maybe brought everybody's expectations back down to normal for the most part, we'll say. And we will, like I said, delve into that in a second. I was at home yesterday, had some workers come over, and basically, I think I said this maybe one of the shows, aerate the lawn, where they roll this thing over it and pokes holes in your grass so the roots can breathe and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And then reseed and fertilize. And so I'm kind of, I got two different prices. One was just to come over and aerate and rake some of the dead grass and do all that stuff. And the other one was to do that and reseed. So I thought, and I said, no, I'll do the reseeding and the fertilizer and all that stuff. And then I thought, well, what the hell? I had a friend of mine tell me, oh, no, these people are really good. And I'm thinking, well, you know what? I'm an amateur. These guys are professionals. Give them a shot, right? What the
Sure.
hell? The price and difference about $100, maybe a little bit more, but not a whole lot. And I thought, all right. So I go ahead and go for the full Monty, and they're out there, and they're aerating. I'm going, okay. They're raking, but I'm going, I don't know. I couldn't tell. And I have to say this, as the guy that, is the big boss man, the guy, the foreman that comes around checking on workers, I'm not any good because I don't like people looking over my shoulder when I'm doing something. And I have that same, which you ain't supposed to do when you're in management, right, Todd?
Right.
You're supposed
Give them the tools and the resources, hold them accountable.
Yes.
Here's your goals, objectives, go get her done.
See, that ain't me. I'm kind of like, well, I wouldn't appreciate it if somebody's looking over my shoulder, so I'm not going to look over his shoulder. Well, guess what, Dex? I should have looked over their shoulder because they're almost done, and I happen to look out there, and the guy that's running the seeder, it's one of those seeders that's got wheels on it. Mm-hmm. So he's out there, and he's running the seeder, and of course he's doing this, walking along. I knew right there I had made a grave mistake. This dipshit is looking at his cell phone.
He's looking up the right formula for your special blend of grass in the
maybe you're right.
The high-end district.
I never.
There's
thought
probably
of
an
that,
app that was helping him.
You know what? When I was doing Riggo on the range, I jumped in a combine up in South Dakota when they were cutting corn, and this guy basically all he had to do was look at the computer screen to make sure his machine. Hell, the machine go down at the end of the thing, make the turn. He never touched the wheel. That's what the guy was doing. He had GPS on his cell phone.
It was
sure. No, that wasn't what it was. It wasn't what it. And then I go out there and I look and, hey, I put more salt on my steak than they put fertilizer on that grass. I mean, just to give you an idea, I'm going, what? I should have done it myself. What is it about nowadays? And I don't know if it's nowadays. And I got to remember when I say this, we always date ourselves because I guarantee you, back when I was working. When I was a kid and I was working for $1 an hour putting up hay out in Kansas, I'm sure there were old timers out there going, God, these guys today.
Back in my day.
Yes. He's making $1 an hour. We used to get 10 cents an hour back when so I got to appreciate the fact it's kind of like the music. My dad, of course, I hated the Beatles too. I've never cared for the music. My dad goes, that long-haired music. And now I got to say, some of the modern music, I'm going, gee, what, that's music? That ain't music. So
progress.
Anyway, exactly. I guess I'm having my Pops moment here. But anyway, I thought I'd throw it out there. But that got me into a whole new thing. Yeah. Which gets back to, Todd, is that what's the name of it? Social, what? The documentary on
on Netflix.
Yes.
An amazing documentary on Netflix. I believe it's called The Social Dilemma.
That's it. I think that's it.
I encourage every human being on the planet to watch this.
Must see. Must see.
I told John and Lisa Marie Riggins, I said, you really need to check this out. And Dexter, thank you. Make that mental note. I'll text you afterwards. But it's disturbing, it's eye-opening, and it's really scary. And when you've got the titans and the back-end folks that are the social engineers designing the code, the software, the algorithms that everybody hears about, and this is all a game of manipulation. And it's pretty terrifying.
Let me say this. It just dawned on me while I'm sitting here. It's haunting. It's beyond terrifying because really the truth of the matter is, in a weird sort of way, 2000 and Space Odyssey has come to fruition. We now have people who, behind the scene, because of the ubiquitous computer or internet and where everybody's constantly connected to it, that's constantly being manipulated, that the whole thing is that we're being guided through life psychologically by
brainwashing,
by complete strangers, and this is the way they want you. So you buy this product, so you go here. It is beyond. It's crazy, and so much so. When I saw the guy out mowing or doing the reseeding, and I see him on the phone, and I know that particularly with younger kids, it's truly. It's just. I mean, believe it or not, but I could make the argument, in my mind anyway, that this is every bit as deleterious, or I should say virulent, as the
COVID-19.
Fentanyl.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about stuff that's addictive. And where's it going to take you? I mean, you're literally becoming all hail Caesar. All hail Caesar. It's just shocking when you see this documentary. And like I told my wife last night after I got into bed, and I said, you know what? I think I'm going to throw my cell phone away. Seriously, it's almost like, and it wouldn't be hard for me to do,
you
honestly.
Finished watching it.
What's that?
You finished watching it
yeah.
because when the last time we had talked, you were halfway through it.
Well, even then, we'll just watch half of it.
And then when you get to the final part, and what sealed it for me was, these are the people that created it. They know how bad it is, and they flat out tell you in this documentary, we're screwed. We're screwed. Democracy, freedom, it's manipulation at its most disgusting, and it's generations. I mean, every young people, adults too, we're glued to this, and it's tough to break it away. And they give so many just mind-blowing real-life examples. But these are the people that created the monster, and they're saying the monster is real, and the monster's going to get us.
Yeah, the genie is literally out of the bottle. And I don't know exactly, you're not going to put it back. I mean, because the world now, there's no way to go back to, analog? I mean, everything's digital. I mean, I don't even understand it. I never have bought into it. And truly, I will go through this life and never really get that deep into understanding how all this stuff works, like some of the, internet engineers, whatever you want to call them. Well, you got a glitch in your phone, you call up tech support. I mean, to get to that level of expertise, and then and the further you go, I'm sure the probably the more frightening it is. I think for people who use it, they go, oh, that can't be. That's not true at all. But every time, when you look at this and based on your mood and the input you're having with your phone, that's all going to a database, which is already refunctioning stuff and sending it back to you.
In real time.
In real time.
It is saying, oh, Dexter, you're in Whole Foods right now. And, oh, look, Dexter's over there searching, hold up your peach fizzy over here, your drink. Show the folks that. And it knows what you're doing. And next thing, you might see a discount coupon pop up, and it's like, oh, well, Dexter just interacted with so-and-so and isn't feeling good today. But I tell you where it's going to come in handy, and I think you're going to appreciate this segue is, I think the Burgundy and Gold could use some artificial intelligence on maybe their offense.
I thought that's what they were using.
Maybe the whole...
That they need real intelligence, not artificial.
And apparently the defense does as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's get into Sunday's past performance out in Arizona.
Well, I tell you what, it's kind of where they're where we said it last week on Friday's show, or I guess it was, because they were going into Arizona as far as what to look for. The defense didn't come out the way, in other words, your first blush on Sunday, the weekend before against the Eagles, you're playing the Eagles. Like anything else, you have a tendency to think that the Eagles are a pretty good team because they have Carson Wentz, who's supposed to be a pretty good quarterback. They did have a lot of injuries, and all of a sudden you kind of see, well, maybe the Eagles either thought that they were better than they were, maybe they aren't that good. For whatever the reason, the one thing that you put on the column for Washington was, well, they came back from 17 down, and you can't ignore that, and that's something that you go, maybe you wouldn't have seen that in the past. So that's a big plus. Nowadays, though, it seems like, Well, there are no leads that are really protectable. You could also make that argument that nowadays the way the football is so fluid that you can get this all back real quick. Another team cools off. It didn't used to be like that. You get a couple touchdowns ahead in the old days, and your defense, people had trouble scoring because of the way the game was played. Now everything goes up top. You get a penalty here, a penalty there. You're right back in the ball game. So I really thought that the defense isn't where we thought it was with all the first-round picks. They once again, it's early in the season. They haven't been playing together. It's certainly not the end of the world, but I think that you have to come down and be realistic and say, this team is a work in progress, and particularly, you mentioned it to start with, on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, I think I texted Todd during the game, and I said, it's pretty obvious which team's got the best quarterback here, and it wasn't even funny.
Yeah.
Wasn't even close, really, is what I said. Meant to say.
Well, just to add to that topic, the pundits picked the Eagles to win the division. Who are the pundits?
Well, a bunch of idiots, I guess. I mean,
Some of the same bozos that are keeping Joe Jacoby out of the Hall of Fame. I'll say that.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll say that.
That would give
What's
you
that
an
term?
Pundits. I call them bozos.
Bozos.
Look, now this takes us in a whole other area. But Dexter, in your experience, and you read, and this isn't. It's just a fact. Whether you can say all you want. I remember when the original XFL started, and Jesse Ventura was one of the broadcasters. Mm-hmm. He was justifying saying, "Oh hell, none of these other guys." And from his perspective, he was right, because he was talking about so many people in broadcasting who never had any experience playing football. And that's really, in broadcasting and or writing, people,
Sure.
You can watch something all you want. I mean, I can watch a guy fly an airplane all my life. They land, they take off, they land. Does that make me a pilot somehow? Or an expert to be able to critique pilots? Well, I might learn a little something along the way, but I don't think that's hardly like sitting in the, in the captain's chair and, in the 747 taking it off. So you have to they're there to help promote the sport and market it so everybody can make money and people want to read about it because it becomes their passion. But ultimately, pundits are, I wouldn't put a lot of faith in most of their opinions. And going back to Joe Jacoby and yourself, the fact that you haven't been, I don't know if you need to be nominated. Have you ever been nominated for the Hall of Fame?
Sure, since 19.
But that means you're eligible. I'm talking about where you've gotten into the final.
Final 80 or 90, then they whittle it down. And
No.
A travesty.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
So that's my answer for pundits.
So Dexter, we discussed that the matchups are going to be what we saw for two quarters, and again, it is early. The second half versus the Eagles and Dwayne Haskins-led offense, and what they did in the second half was resilience. Mixed it up some. They put some points on the board. They pull out the win. So that going against Arizona's weakness, which was Arizona's defense. Mm-hmm. Then flip it around. Arizona's powerful offense ranked fourth in the league against supposedly Washington's strength, which was their second half Eagles defense with 8 sacks.
The front seven.
Yeah. So you go down 20-0 again.
Yeah.
You go down 20-0. Offense had nothing. Defense had nothing. Dwayne Haskins, once again, highly in throwing.
His accuracy's awful.
Just awful. His touch. And, the one thing you and I, when we were texting and going back and forth, and what it started to remind me of, and you start following, you seeing the Twitter feeds in real time of people commenting, "Oh, we should be proud in the way they fought back." That game was not close.
That was
another one of those games that I remember. Kirk Cousins, how many games he played, where teams, the B&G were getting their butts kicked in the first half. The other team takes their foot off the gas and smacking them around, and then Kirk Cousins and gang would pad stats, and the score would look a lot more efficient in the paper the next day, and you're going, but that game wasn't that close
at all.
Not at all.
Well, let me say this, Todd. That from my perspective, at the end of the game was all you needed to see. They're down by 2 scores. I think they needed a touchdown and an extra point. And
what happened to Riverboat Ron?
Right. Well, where I'm saying is, you got down to it. It was on the defense, and what did Arizona do? They ran the football.
Yeah.
First down after first down, gave up the field goal that really kind of cemented the game. And that's the one unit that you really are counting on to make things happen. In other words, get out there, close them out, 3 and out, put your offense back on the field. They never did. Arizona ran time off the clock. They ran the ball down, got their field goal, and left with a victory. Meaning that they weren't interested till the end, where it looked like, well, you know what? If we keep dinking around here, who knows? These guys could get lucky. So they started running the ball, and where was the defense?
Yeah.
Plus
the Redskins went 3 and out, which that put a lot of challenge on the defense. They can't get the rest they need, the proper, and so that means that affects the defense. And Kyle Murray was very shifty, and these guys look like they never got into play football before.
Didn't he remind you a little of Russell Wilson? His ability to
a little even more wiggly than Russell.
Yeah.
He's smaller, I think.
Yeah, he's a little smaller and a little quicker. Shifty's great word, but accuracy with the ball. I mean, he was good for it.
Yep.
Well, clearly they made the trade and moved all the way. What? He was a first-round pick, number one.
Number one.
You
Off
know
the
what?
board.
Myself personally, you always go with this. The game has changed, so all bets are off, because that's why a guy like Tom Brady has played for 20 years. A guy like Tom Brady, I just don't believe could have possibly lasted had the rules been what they were in 1971.
No.
Correct.
I mean, in fact, he might not have lasted 4 or 5 years. I mean, they would have sawed him in half easily.
Yeah.
And but nowadays, and I always used to say this, eventually they catch the rabbit. He may be one of those rabbits that can't catch. Mm-hmm. I got no clue.
Mm-hmm. Tom Brady.
No.
Kyler Murray. Yeah.
Kyler Murray. What did you guys think about?
Tom Brady's more like a walrus or a seal. Not too hard to walk up beside and club him on the head and
turtle.
Throw him in the boat.
So I do think that I was surprised by this in the second half when the B&G decided to kick a field goal instead of going for it at that one particular point. And the
riverboat?
Yeah, the riverboat run. And then when they were down, it was 27-15, and the Cardinals were driving in, and instead of milking or taking the timeouts and using them and going for broke and trying to win this game, again, the fans, everybody was scratching their head going, have we given up? Is it that obvious?
What was the comment? He made a comment which was
here's
pretty,
the comment. Here's the
pretty
comment.
Inflammatory.
Here's
I thought.
The comment, and
right.
this is kind of stunning to me. This is from Coach Rivera. Told reporters afterwards, "I don't want to expose my players to injury. It's a long season.
Yep.
We've got 14 games left to play. We got an opportunity to learn and grow, and that's probably, to me, a little bit more important right now than exposing our guys to getting injured in a situation like that."
That says it all right there. He had the white flag up.
What do you guys think of that, guys?
We're potentially, I don't know. To me, you get down to this you look at the kind of a philosophy to success. And it's never give up. Is what what was his name? Is one of the presidents that always says, you talk about talent, you can talk about this, but persistence. That's what basically puts people where they are. People who don't give up, they keep going and keep going. And it would look to me like the riverboat guy is like going, well, and yet I understand what he's saying. And from my perspective, and I'm not that guy, from a player's perspective, I might go, okay, hey, Coach, thank you. I appreciate you looking out for me, which you never really see because most coaches are pedal to the metal. I can't honestly tell you which way to go with this. It depends on your own personal point of view. If you're thinking that, is this really, truly cagey thinking here? Is this really outside the box? Looking at the really big picture where he thinks, but at the same time, you're playing people. You played people in preseason games.
Right.
I mean, that's the old. Going to expose them to. On the one hand, it makes no sense. On the other hand, I understand it.
I have a different perspective. I think that, the way he lost. So he's speaking to the people up top, like the people like Dan Snyder, because he justifying.
So you're saying this is a rebuilding year, and we need to be smart here versus.
Yeah.
Okay, can I be the counter to that?
Sure, please.
Can I be the counter? Because we already know the NFC East wasn't much last year, right? Okay,
correct.
Philadelphia limped into the playoffs at 9-7.
And they still are.
Terrible, right?
Right.
The New York Giants, they're nothing, and they're in really bad shape. Here's the converse argument to that. You realize how bad the Dallas Cowboys were getting their butts kicked? They were down 20-0 after the first quarter. They were down 39-24 with 5 minutes remaining. They came back and won the game, guys. There was no quit. They did the impossible.
Hey, Todd, so you saying the division we're in, John and I was in, is not the black and blue anymore?
Oh, no. That, I think that's transferred out west. Probably to the NFC West is what that has transferred. And, you know, these things go in cycles. The NFC East is now the NFC least, and that's an old phrase that we'll borrow.
Watch
now.
yourself.
Well, I'm just saying, you know it's true.
Yeah, no, Todd.
There's nobody's scared of the NFC East right now.
And back in the 80s, that was the division.
That was the division.
Well, at least defensively speaking, that was one of the toughest defensive conference, or what do you call it, divisions there was. Go ahead.
So Dallas scored 16 points in the final 4 minutes and 57 seconds with this crazy, ridiculous onside kick to win at home, their home opener against the Atlanta Falcons. I'm sorry, but this early in the season with a young football team, and you're waving the white flag versus...
You know, you're bringing up a great point, Todd. Like I said, there's two sides to me, and I can understand Coach Rivera's point of view. Is it the correct one? I don't know. If you're really a fan of the team and you want this team to win and you think they have a chance to win their division, which, based on what you said, they do, well, that's a huge mistake. And it's another, and you can look at it from the other perspective is, well, then why didn't you throw in the towel last week when you were down 17-0? You know, in other words, it's kind of an arbitrary choice left up to you where, well, I don't have a good feel. You know, it's like, I don't have a good feeling about this, so I don't want to expose the guys to injury. There's another aspect here that you have to legitimately consider, and that is that Coach Rivera is undergoing cancer treatment. I don't know what the protocol is, but I've been undergoing a protocol for basically, what do you call it, rheumatoid arthritis, and also another thing called polymyalgia rheumatica. So I've had to take prednisone for the past 18 months or so, and I still am very low dosage now in the beginning. My point being, that alters your psychology. Some people, it didn't seem to affect me, but some people become very aggressive and angry, and you know, so there's side effects to any of these drugs they give you. And who's to say that, you know, based on what Coach Rivera said, that these drugs aren't having some kind of an effect on him? Who knows? I mean, they're cancer drugs. That's pretty serious stuff, or radiation. I don't know, but in other words, I think that I'm disappointed if he's in his right mind, we'll say, and with that amount of time left and only down by that many points that he decided to take a knee. I'm going, I don't know, I don't follow that, but you know, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I do follow this, John. I'm going to come cut you with a fingernail file.
Why would you do that, Dad?
Well, 'cause I want to see if you're going to bleed out.
Why would I? And why wouldn't I bleed out?
Because you're taking this medication.
Oh, you think sawdust will come out of me or something?
Well, do you guys?
By the way, you're going to cut me and try to get me to bleed out. Where are you going to cut me?
Dexter's not a hemophiliac.
Are you going to poke me in the finger? Are you going to go for the jugular? What are we talking about? Femoral artery?
He's got some bad ambitions.
I think Dexter says he's from the hood. I think he knows a hell of a lot more than we give him credit for. I think he knows the human anatomy. I mean, in his other life, he was probably a thoracic surgeon for all we know.
The hood hitman.
Oh, here comes Dexter. Get the hell out of here.
All right. Well, so to that point here, because what is part of the great Redskins Cowboys rivalry over the history of time, you guys participated in some of these comebacks and been on the wrong end. Been on the wrong end. So I want to get your feedback because that win, and again, we all know what happened with the Atlanta Falcons, the 28-3 New England Patriots, which they have never recovered from. And so this is another black mark against that the coaching staff.
But it ain't the same coach, is it? Atlanta. Didn't they get rid of is this the same coach
It's
as
Dan
Atlanta?
Quinn. Dan Quinn.
Oh, Dan Quinn's still there.
It's the same coaching staff.
Whoa.
Same coaching staff. Whoa. So
long weekend at Atlanta.
Riggo, 1983. You've been on that Atlanta Falcon end of the coin, side of the coin, if you will, in which the opening game, 1983, Riggo, home against the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, you know what's really funny? You're coming off the Super Bowl winners. You're world champions. You're playing at home in front of your fans.
Don't forget you, the MVP.
It wasn't doing me good that night.
Monday Night Football.
None of the Cowboys must have watched the Super Bowl. Interesting enough, the team that you last played at RFK, the Cowboys, the season before, that you went, they're back again, and here you are. You get, and really, it was really weird because you go in. It's kind of what we were talking to earlier in there. You go in at halftime, you're going, "Yeah, we're world champions," and it's kind of where you don't understand. You've still got to go out play after play and earn it on every play. That first half obviously came too easy. I think that we kind of took our foot off the gas a little bit. And it's funny when that happens. If that other team starts to make a play or you make a mistake, all that arrogance that you had before, now all of a sudden they creep back, and now you're looking and your foot keeps slipping off the accelerator. All of a sudden somebody's greased it. You can't get it going again. And now the more that you slip and slide, the more they catch up, and the next thing you know, you end up losing a game like that. I remember that, very, very disappointed in that game, because basically you were embarrassed. Here you were the world champions, you play at home, your arch rival, and you lose to them, and you're up at halftime, 23-3?
23-3.
Ridiculous.
The defense had been lights out. Lights out. Shutting. I think the Cowboys had 85 total yards in the first half. And this is the game with Darryl Green and his national coming out, playing for Jarris White, who was in a contract dispute.
Yep.
And that was the game that he tracked down. It's still to this day, watching it on TV, it doesn't look real. It's like the Road Runner coming out, coming across that screen and catching Tony Dorsett like nothing on that Dorsett 77-yard run.
It was amazing. John, I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Is that getting to know you? Were you friends with Randy White, or would you hit that hole and run over Randy White at the time? Because what I come to understand, you and him was good friends.
We became
y'all
friends.
Hunting buddies.
No, never hunted with
fishing
Randy.
buddies.
Never even went fishing with Randy. No, we've become friends.
Yeah.
But never while we played.
Really?
That's another thing that's completely different today. And I got to admit, as an older player, I don't know how you feel about it. It kind of turns me off when I see these guys. I would be the first to admit, the chances of you seeing me in church, you're better off going out and looking for Haley's comment every night. So, I mean, that's just me. I got no problem with anybody else.
You're not
that wants
exchanging jerseys with
and sitting down and taking a knee and putting your arm around people and all that. I mean, occasionally you have a really good friend. You might go over and say, hi. But if you don't know somebody, or I ain't out there to go shake hands and say, hey, by the way, hey, Randy, nice game. I never met you before. I really want to shake your hand. You're a heck of a ball player. No, there was always just this. I don't know what it was, and I don't know how you did, but particularly with the Cowboys. Well, actually, all the defenses. I got up off the pile. I went back to the huddle. I kept my mouth shut. It was no friendship. There was nothing. It's like, I'm not going to do anything, and I'm not going to cater to them. But, and I'm not going to do anything to provoke anybody. I'm just going to play the game the way it's, in my mind, the way it's supposed to play. But, today I see all this stuff, everybody together at halftime, or not at halftime, but after the game, the last several years, you see people, and I'm going, really? We got,
and they praying in the middle of the
This is supposed
field?
to be a rivalry? I mean, yes. I mean, this is where it gets weird. Because I'm kind of like, I think, a typical fan in this regard. You kind of want to, because fans, they don't like Dallas, right? People,
we don't want to see you hanging out and commiserating. Hey, you guys want to grab a beer afterwards?
That leaves the impression that you guys are working together. Maybe this is WWE.
You guys to hate
maybe,
each other.
Yes, exactly.
We need that hate. Come on, we got enough problems in our miserable little lives.
Not to that level that guy killed that guy in Dallas, a Redskin guy, at a bar. Remember?
That may be taking a little too far. I mean, you can hate somebody without having to mess them up.
Dexter, you've crushed many people's hands, and you are a very high-intensity, emotional guy. I mean, would you ever, after a game, go over and
No. I head to the locker room. I never went and shook another opponent's hand.
And here's another thing, too, and I don't know where this came from. It's kind of like the opposing coaches have to come out. Yeah, good game. After the game's over with. Always the coach. And also, who else?
Quarterbacks.
The quarterbacks.
Well, of course, they're the
bunch of politicians.
They're the chosen position.
politics.
Who started that, John? I mean,
I got
you've been
no
in the league
clue.
long. Yeah,
I got
that stuff
no
at the
clue.
quarterback.
It's bothered him for a long time.
They get
For the
together
long-
all the
for
time.
Right,
I've known-
It's
You might
still-
say, Dex, I've been in the closet.
Yeah. It's still going on today.
Of course.
I watched.
Oh, yeah.
I watched. Sunday. Lamar Jackson, the boy in Houston. They're all talking and hugging.
Yeah, of course, man.
Deshaun
It's the
Watson.
club. That's it. Listen.
Yeah.
What happened for the burgundy and gold? Number
That's it.
7, and there he's all
That's right.
he's hugging up on everybody over there.
Listen,
Just all it's
you
like
think that the U.S. Senate's the most exclusive club in America? I'd give you the 32 starting quarterbacks of the NFL.
yeah, that's a tough one to break into.
All right, so I want one other one other game from 1979, Riggo. We'd be remiss.
Yeah, Dex would know about this one.
Another great, as we hate saying, this Dallas Cowboys comeback. You guys were up 17-0 early, 34-21 late in the game, and Roger Staubach. What
Somewhere
happened,
around-
Riggo?
It was either 2 minutes. It was, I think, less than 2 minutes to go. We're up by 13. It turns out we had first we're still up 13. We got a third and one, and I'm pretty sure it was a 3rd and 1. And now they had what was called a wide mole. Do you remember what that was? On a 4-down line? When you had
A
four
wide something.
Yeah, exactly. It's wide mole or wide, but that's basically where your defensive tackles they actually shoot for the outside shoulder of the guard that they're on. If you're the left defensive tackle, you're going to take out. They're going to try to shoot that gap between the guard and the tackle. And the middle linebacker is going to fill that void that these two tackles have created. Well, we had a plate that was designed to go to around the right end to hit off tackle, and our guard, who didn't hit the playbook overly hard, the Hostess cupcakes and the Twinkies all he could get, but the playbook not so much. In that situation,
No names.
as Ron Saul used to tell me, that when you see that coming, you don't leave. He goes ahead and pulls. Larry Cole looks like a mail carrier on his way to the to your post box. Of course, I'm the guy with the mail, and he just sets me on my ear. I think we lost about 3 or 4 yards on that. So if this guy stays home, I turn the corner, it's possible I score a touchdown. I mean, that's how we would have circled the Dallas defense on that. So now we got to punt. Dallas gets the ball back, and they end up getting a touchdown. And then I think we get this was the one for the go-ahead. And then we had a fumble, and that's when they got the ball and they went in. And I think that Lamar Parrish, Lamar that got
he's good.
Tony
Hill,
yeah,
beat
Tony
him.
Hill.
Yep, Tony
Hill.
And we lose that. But now, interesting, there's still a little bit of time left on the clock, and Washington gets the ball back. They get down to about the Dallas 40 or 45. I don't know, but anyway, to this day, and the ball was down. We called timeout. I think we had timeout. The refs waved it off. Time expires. To this day, you got to ask Mosley or Theismann about that, because I was on the sidelines, but and I wasn't really, like looking at the clock.
So you didn't even give it a final chance to kick a field goal?
He was not. No, they didn't stop the clock or anything, and they just let the clock play out. And it's because Theismann hit somebody for a pass down the field. I mean, like I said, it's over 40 years ago. But we had a chance. Mosley, who knows? Mose might have drilled it, and it would. It's interesting, though. Had that happened, and you think about it came down. That's an interesting proposition right there, Todd, because you can make an argument based off of all this that it changed the face of football in Washington. That very game,
Right.
that very meltdown, because had Washington held and won the game, they would have had the home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And as it turns out, because of another happening that day in Chicago, I believe, they beat the St. Louis Cardinals by over 30 points, which was the margin. They had to win by over 30 to get. And once they did that, the tiebreaker kicked us completely out of the playoffs.
Out of the playoffs.
We went from
Cowboys win the NFC East title, and they're sitting at home.
Yeah. And, and then after that season, that was one of those seasons where, the next year, there was a lot of other factors in there. A lot of people, it's hard to express to people your true, intentions or what's really going on. So I came back the next season, and I was kind of in that situation mentally where I'm going, they that kind of took. All I ever wanted to do was play in a Super Bowl, and here I played 9 years, went to Dallas, got that close to potentially. And I think that team, Washington, because that team was on the rise, it was getting better as the season went on. I think that team would have went to the Super Bowl. I think I would have realized
the '79 team.
The '79 team. I think I would have realized that ambition I had when I came into the league, but it never happened. And so the next year I was very ambivalent. Get to training camp, and that's the year I walked out of camp and said I didn't really walk out of camp. I left before camp, in my mind, started. Went home, and that was. And so I set out. Well, the team goes 6-10 the next year. And they fire the coach, and Bobby Beathard finds Joe Gibbs, and all of a sudden, so I'm saying that game had a lot to do with actually changing the face of the franchise. I mean, it certainly changed my aspect. I think, well, look, that was my best shot to get to a Super Bowl, and I instinctively knew that, football ain't good for your health. I'll be the first one to tell you that. And I'm thinking, I got to get on with my life. And I figured, well, I played a little bit here, and I got some money that they owe me. Now, there was my big mistake, thinking I was a lawyer. So,
yeah. I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Jack Pardee was the coach. Did you play in the same era with him? Did you guys?
Never. I played against him. I never played.
Against him.
Yeah, he was playing when I was in New York.
Yeah.
I think in '72 he was still on the team down here, and when they came to the Shea Stadium,
and then he became your coach.
He eventually became my coach.
How was that relationship? Once you played, then it became...
Well, he was a defensive guy. He was actually a disciple of George Allen, and he kind of had that same belief. And I didn't. And personally, it didn't. He did something that always kind of, and that had a little bit to do with my decision in 1980 not to come back and play. I went, he had a deal where years that in 1979 that because '78 his first year here there was some players, or a player in particular, that kind of was milking things, and he wouldn't practice and do all this stuff, and there were some issues with drugs and whatever, never really out in the open. But so Coach Pardee got very upset about all this stuff, and he made a proclamation that if you were sick, this was in training camp, you had to be in a hospital. There wasn't any of this, I don't feel well, then I'm just going to stay up in my room. So I went, okay. So I go over to the training room one day, and we're up at Carlisle, and I got 102-degree fever. And I mean, I was sick. And I remember the trainer saying, well, you know what the rules are here. You have to be out at practice, or you have to go to the hospital. You can't go back to your room.
Uh-oh.
And I'm thinking, and now I look back, what was I thinking? I mean, I should have said, well, send my mail. I don't know what the address is over at the hospital. I'll be there for a couple of weeks. But I went ahead and I stood around at practice with 102-degree fever. All right, so like anything else, I marked that down. Okay.
Check.
I got this.
Against coach?
Yeah, that ain't okay. So later in the season, Saturday morning, we're sitting there, and our quarterback is not in the meeting room.
That's Joe T?
I'm not going to mention any names.
Okay.
Number 7.
Okay.
Didn't say numbers.
Numbers.
And so we're all sitting around there, and I'm, I've got this in the back of my mind. I'm going, wait a second, what's going on here? And so Coy Bacon was still on the team.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, Coy, number 7 ain't here. He starts looking around going, that's right. As soon as Coach Pardee walks in, Coy, and I knew I could count on him. He goes, hey, coach. That rule you got. How's come number 7 ain't in here? And
You poked the bear like a champ.
I was going, yes, thank you, Coy. Excellent, well done. He goes, well, he's not feeling well, and he's at home. And as soon as he said that,
Home, not hospital, wrong
not
H
hospital.
word.
Yeah, I went, you're done. You're done. You dicked with the big guy. You're done. Okay? I'll play it out, but I can't work for you. I can't work for you. And, that was it. I mean, that had a lot in my... I'm going, you know what? That's the way you want to do things? I get, I can be kind of stupid at times. And, my wife will say real stupid. I'm just going to make myself kind of stupid.
How about the kids?
Huh?
The daughters?
No, they kind of go with the big guy. They cover for me. But that was one of those deals. And then the next season comes, and then I saw Jack at an autograph show years ago, and of course he's deceased now.
You're right.
And I don't think he still wanted to talk to me. But I really regret not going to say, Jack, you brought this all on yourself. Oh, you did it all. Let me walk you through it. You remember that training camp in Carlisle in '79? You had to be at Praxis Hospital if you were sick, right? Remember that Saturday morning? Remember that? Well, you brought it on yourself, Jack. You got nobody but yourself to blame. And I still feel that way.
You call him by his first name?
I called every coach by his first name. What's this? Why not? What? Where am I going with this? Why? You look stunned,
Let's
Jack.
see, Dexter started. He told many stories in which he came in and he started learning from the big guys.
You're
Like,
right.
who's John Riggins? What? 81, 82? And he's like, well, how come he gets to do this? And he's like, so.
Yeah.
I am what's known, Dex, as a coach killer. I can make you and I can break you. What did I tell Coach Gibbs? You get me back, I'll make you famous. What did I do? I made him famous.
You did. You did.
Yeah.
Well, fall is upon us, gentlemen, and the weather, man, it's been brisk in the morning. There is no playing around. What a strange, bizarre year. Not much of a spring, kind of went straight to summer. And now, here we are. And Riggo, I know you like getting back outdoors.
Well, I live on the banks of the Potomac River, just inside the Beltway. So I've been promising my daughter, Coco, to take her fishing. Mm-hmm. And finally, Saturday, I got the canoe all fixed up, and finally Saturday rolled around, and we were able to get out on the Potomac River. And I'm telling you, Dexter, it was absolutely beautiful. We got up there, we were fishing for catfish, which I kind of, over the years, become a snob fisherman. I fly fish, but I grew up fishing for catfish. And there's big catfish up there. I mean, we're talking 50, 60, 70-pound catfish. Because I talked to a guy, he said, last week I got a 20 and a 40, and I'm going in our blue cats.
I thought you were joking. They're that big?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, so much so that we were in the canoe, and if we actually hooked into a bigger fish, I'd have Coco hold the fish while I paddled over to get on the bank or get on the shore. I wouldn't be out there. I wouldn't fight a fish in that canoe out in the middle of the water.
Because you're a flip.
I'm afraid it's possible because I don't know. A fish that big, I don't want to take a chance on it. And keep in mind, for everybody that goes over the American Legion Bridge, this may be news to some people, maybe some people not. Mm-hmm. Do you realize that water right there underneath the American Legion Bridge and a little bit inside the Beltway and probably going up towards Stubblefield Falls? It's 100 feet of water in there. It's 100 feet deep. Can you believe that? I mean, you could get
no idea.
You could actually get an aircraft carrier through there.
No idea.
I mean, it's not wide enough, actually, but in that amount of water, I think an aircraft carrier wouldn't draft maybe 50, 60 feet at the most. I don't know.
No idea.
It's stunning how deep that water is. And we had a couple of really, solid hits. Starts right off. We flip it out there. I was using shrimp. I couldn't find, I was going to seine some bait, but I don't have a seine, and there isn't really any place you can do it. But some sunfish would have been great. Flip it out there, and we get to chat, and within 5 minutes, I look, and I'm going, the cork, it's gone. And I feel a fish on there. I got a fish on, and of course, I was getting technical now, but I don't know what I did. I did something wrong because I'm using a circle hook, and you're basically just supposed to let the fish hook itself. It's kind of new to me. And I guess I didn't do that. But, yeah, it was such a great day. In fact, I just ordered this week about, what was it? I got 250 Canadian night crawlers coming. I'm getting serious about this, Dick. I'm going back to my roots.
He spent $75 on worms.
What's night crawlers? This is all foreign to me.
Something you dig in your yard.
I never fished in my life.
You go out late at night if you got them, and you got a rain coming down. You go out with a flashlight, and they're up on top of the grass, crawling around, doing what they do. And then
you're not afraid of a bear come
a bear? On you? There ain't no bears around here that I know of.
I think you got to take Dexter fishing. America.
I'm going to have to get another boat though, because
America
there's no way.
Needs to see this.
But this would be where the canoe would be like this. Dex in the front and me up here. My paddle wouldn't reach the water. I'd be, hey Dex, I don't know, move back towards the middle of the boat.
Okay,
yeah, we'd be overloaded. I don't think I can get
John,
you. But you're welcome. We could go fish from bank.
That's okay. I'm a pass.
And I'm starting to plan my excellent adventure to Kansas, Dex.
I don't want to.
I think you and me out there on the farm, deer hunting.
Oh.
Now you
Deer
might
hunting.
accidentally accuse me of a deer and snipe me. I don't want to go deer hunting.
Unless you grow antlers, Dexter, you're safe with me.
I don't want to.
All right, well, that's going to conclude this
We will.
edition of our outdoor segment here on TJRS.
Exactly,
Many more stories to come. We got Rocky the Raccoon. It's about
Rocky
time.
hadn't showed up
It's
yet, but
about
with-
Rocky, so we're going to explain what that means on the next edition of the John Riggins Show.
Okay.